versus the one with the data and the business case and the one that'll most move the strategy open and forward. And so I think so many times it becomes emotion and it becomes things that are near and dear to me versus what's the business need. And I think this doesn't mean the conversations become easier, but it at least says, can we agree on what our screens would be? So, one more question, and then we will wrap up. So, Erica, you had a question.
Sorry to interrupt, but we just had one that's related to this, and I think this person would benefit from an answer because I feel like we often find ourselves in these situations when you have competing priorities. So this question is asking, basically, if you have two heads, so two different department heads, and the priorities are different, and you are kind of stuck in between. So how they phrase the question is, how do you manage if there are two heads leading departments, they grow up to the same level, so there's rivalry and it's an unhealthy environment developed within the workspace. How do you handle that? I thought that was a good one. Sorry to throw a curveball there.
Can I take a quick start on it? So I think step number one is to just look at the two Venn diagrams, right? Each leader is asking for something, and ask yourself, is there any overlap between those, right? Because that's a place where you can really focus some effort and make both your masters happy, right? The second thing I think you want to do is ask yourself, are there trades that you can make, right? Serve this master now, defer something for this one later, address this issue, but come back to this one. So thinking about whether you can broker trades between these two leaders can be useful. And finally, can you act as a mediator, right? Can you effectively bring them together to try and get some alignment and some clarity and have them understand that if they're not able to do that, you're not going to be able to serve either of them particularly well.
So we've talked about a lot of things today, but I want to just talk about 3 questions as we wrap up. The first question is, can we all acknowledge that we have limits? Now, intellectually, I think that's an easy yes. But I think for us personally, for us running departments, for us running organizations, having limits and saying we're not going to do things is really, really hard. So first of all, can we just acknowledge that there are limits and we can only do so much? That's question 1. Question 2 is really, how well are we listening? Are we really asking questions down throughout the organization about what's the impact of this initiative? What's it take to support this, to sustain this, to really bring this to life? And are we listening when people say we need this resource or it's taking this amount of time? I know that as a leader, I often needed to just really hear from my team what they needed in order to, 1, cut down on the number of things we were doing, but then resource it accordingly. And then the third thing is, can we get comfortable saying no? Steve Jobs said that one of our jobs as leaders was to learn to say no to the hundreds of good ideas that came across. And so as leaders, what we have to get better at doing is saying yes. We have to get better at saying no to the hundreds of good ideas in order to say yes and to truly support and sustain the truly best ideas. Thank you.